Hello, character design with dice. Let's jump straight into it. The template we're working with is the Duchess of Alizarin. I already know her name, which is Esonora, but I don't know how she looks, so let's do that. As always, we start with the D&D race. Oh my god, there's a dead fruit fly in my dice box. RIP fruit fly, I don't know how I killed you. Anyway, a D12. Please give me something interesting. A 9, oh my god, is a human. I asked the dice to give me something interesting and they gave me a human. Okay, I'm just gonna have to make it interesting with other stuff. Figuring out skin tone. I forgot how I did it last time, so I'll just set it now. 1 is as pale as can be and dark is, or what am I saying? 10 is as dark as can be. So 8, so she's pretty dark. And okay guys, I'm gonna put a disclaimer now because last time some people were upset. The camera lightens the colors, so if once I'm coloring the skin tone doesn't look as dark, it's because the camera lightened it up. So let's figure out the color of her hair also. Let's do the same like scale there, the paleness to darkness scale or value scale. 3. Okay, so her hair isn't white, but it's pretty light. I'm too lazy to explain the yes or no mechanics, so here's the chart on screen. Is it like a gray? 8, which is yes. The hair is gray. It's okay. I'm in my head. I'm starting to see a bit of like the Valarians from House of Dragon. Although I feel like their type of gray is a little bit darker than Esonora's. I think Esonora's is gonna be a little lighter. Okay, interesting. I also want to roll a d4 for the hair type. So there's straight 1, wavy 2, curly 3, and coily. Why is it so hard to say? For 4. 3 is curly. Let's do another d10. 1 is short, 10 is long. That's a 9. So her hair is pretty long. And I also want to figure out the body type because I didn't do this last time for my other character designs. I drew this little chart up of like shapes and stuff. So I'll just roll a d6 for that. 3, which is hourglass figure. This raises up a few questions. Is she on the curvier side? Does she have like more fat on her body than other people? Yes, she does. Got a 5. So she is curvier. She's got more fat. And let's see. Is she tall? 17. No, she is not tall. Is she necessarily short? Yes. So maybe she's like, I don't know, like 5 feet or something, or like 5'1". She's kind of short and she's curvy. She's plus size. Does she have big boobs? 15. No, she is not a big boob girly. Let's ask with fashion, how much skin does she like to show? Does she like to show a lot of skin? 13. Okay, no. She's a bit of a modest girly. Does she wear a big flared out skirt? 14. Okay, she doesn't. So the skirt of her dresses are a little bit closer to the legs, if that makes sense. Like she probably isn't wearing a crinoline. I don't know about the bustle. The bustle is the current fashion in Mistwind, so I guess I'll ask about that. Does she like to wear a bustle? 15. No, she does not. The gears in my brain are already working and I kind of already have an idea as to what kind of like dress silhouette this might be. But let's figure out some more stuff. Does she like to wear big sleeves? Big puffy sleeves? I got a 20. So very no. Extreme no. She does not like to wear big sleeves. She likes to wear flat sleeves that are very close to her skin. It's very tight. Does she wear those types of sleeves that get cut off like at the elbow and have like a little flare out? I'll put a picture. 16, no, she doesn't. So I'm thinking like she doesn't like to show a lot of skin, so probably full long sleeve, right? Or if not, then there's probably a version of like her outfit where she's just wearing like long gloves or something. At the moment, it's seeming like it's kind of leaning more towards the masculine fashions of Mistwind. I know I keep talking about this like alleged Mistwind fashion video. I got a little sick of working on it, so I'm working on this video instead. I'm just gonna be talking about a bunch of nonsense that none of you know about, but in that video, I was basically figuring out fashion tends to follow the royalty of a kingdom. A lot of eyes are on the king and queen, and so whatever they wear tends to kind of become the fashion trends of the kingdom. And so I was using the existing outfits of the king and the queen, and I was trying to turn them into kind of the current fashion trends of Mistwind. And so I feel like there is a version of feminine fashion that kind of follows more of what the king is doing, especially since the king is androgynous, you know. He probably tends to wear some stuff that can definitely be melded into a dress. And so I'm gonna mess around with that. I also want to ask if she follows the trends or does she set them? So does she follow the trends? Kind of want to know. 10, which I think is just barely a yes. Okay, so she follows the trends, and the trend is essentially the queen's fashion. So the queen has her hair up and she also has it down. Does Esonora like to wear her hair down? 3, yes. Okay, interesting. And I feel like this is where like this whole world that I'm making really becomes its own rather than just being super duper inspired by history, because I mean historically like 200 years ago women would really only let their hair down when they're at home and about to sleep. Outside of that, they would always just wear their hair up. So one thing that I already know about her before I decided that I was gonna flesh her out more in this video was that she wears wigs. She collects them. And I would like to know if she likes to swap hair colors when she wears her wigs. I got a 10, so yes. So she likes to wear her hair down, but she likes to also wear wigs. So I think a lot of her wigs are also hairstyles where her hair is down, and they just, she typically likes to wear the wigs to wear very extravagant hairstyles that aren't super possible with like her natural hair, or she just wants to change things up and have a different hair color for that day, and that's why she wears wigs. And I'll elaborate on the whole wig thing later once I tell you everything I already know about her. Okay, last thing, I want to know what eye color she has, and I'll just use that as like a basis for her color scheme. Is her eye color dark? 13, so no. Is her eye color warm? 15, her eye color is not warm, which means it's cool. So I'm thinking blue, purple, green-ish. Let's go with purple. Is it purple? No. Okay. Is it blue? No. Okay, so is it green? Yes, it's green. I want to know if this green leans more towards like gray, like not as saturated. No. Okay. So the green is saturated. Green eyes, gray hair, very dark skin. Esonora is a pre-existing character in my campaign. So when I first created her, I only generated maybe like 30% of her character. I didn't even touch how she looks like. I just kind of followed an inspiration and ran with that, but I didn't go into the specifics. And I also generated some stuff about her background, but a lot of details are still missing. So that's what I'm gonna figure out in this video. And before I tell you guys everything that I currently know about her, let's roll for her last name, because I have no idea what her last name is. Even though this last name, it's not even like really that important because no one's gonna call her by this name, but at least we know her family name, all right? I'll do 3 rolls on the name table. 71, which is R, 49, which is Len, and 22, which is EH. So we got an R, Len, and then is so weird. So maybe that sound like that syllable, not necessarily EH, but just the sound that it makes. Len I don't know. What about Relen? Relen. God, you guys are hearing me fail to roll my R's. Relen. No, I don't like it. Erlen. Erlen. No, I don't like it. God. Should I roll for a fourth syllable? Because I'm kind of struggling. Maybe I will. I got 22 again, which doesn't help. I'm gonna re-roll. 8. Ass. A-S. Okay, not A-S-S. Len. Len. I'm really bad with names. Aslen. Aslen. I kind of like Aslen. Aslen? Aslener. Aslen. But no, it's not it's plus an R. I mean, I guess I don't have to follow it strictly, so as long as I come up with a name. So I was thinking, what about Azurlen? Azurlen. Kind of like Azir Lane, but Aser, not a Z, S. I keep saying Z. Asurlen. I'll put it up on the screen. Hopefully the spelling is not bad. I just kind of go with the flow because I tend to subscribe to the idea that the first time you see a weirdish looking name, you know, obviously it's gonna look a little odd to you, but as you get used to it and as you see it and you say it more, you get used to it and it becomes more normal, okay? So let's not bag on the name like last time, guys. Please, I'm begging. Okay, so her full name is Esonora Asurlen. I don't think it really matches that much, but whatever. Okay, she doesn't really even go by that name because she's a duchess. She is the Duchess of Alizarin, so her former title is Duchess. People call her Duchess rather than her name. Also, they say, you know, Your Grace, like the common people say Your Grace. So here's some stuff that I already know about her because when I was playing my Mistwind campaign, I generated parts of her there. Not all, and that's basically what this video is for. I'm gonna figure out everything else. So here's what I know. The Duchess of Alizarin is petite, which is kind of wrong in this sense. I rolled petite when I first made her, but in the beginning of this video, I asked, you know, does she have a little bit more fat? And so she's not very petite, but I suppose you can argue that petite could just mean that she's a small person, like she's short, you know? So that still works, right? She's also curious. I interpreted curious as that she collects things, and I was asking the dice, okay, what does she like to collect? And I was rolling some words and I got possessions and extravagant. So, okay, she likes to collect extravagant things and she already owns a lot of these. So what's something that she would own a lot of and is extravagant, and she also collects them? So when I first made her, I was kind of basing her off of Queen Charlotte from Bridgerton because I was inspired by the extravagant wigs that Queen Charlotte was wearing on the show. So I was like, okay, she likes to collect wigs and she likes headpieces. She's very curious, so perhaps she likes to see like exotic, outlandish things, like exotic animals that she has never laid her eyes on, and she likes to watch performances that are like out of this world, and she likes to just collect a lot of those things, objects, gems, very extravagant things like that. And I also rolled that she is an ally, so I took that as being she's an ally to my main characters, which are Eleanor and Charles. So in this story that I am playing, she is a friend, okay? She's not like an adversary. And I also got for personality trait quirky. She is quirky, and I think that also lends itself to why she likes to collect things and why she's so curious, and also why she's interested in Eleanor, because Eleanor is a nonconformist, and so she likes that about her, and I think she wants to get to know Eleanor a lot more, and she's kind of drawn to that chaotic nature that Eleanor has. She also likes to party, and the main reason why I even generated her character to begin with was because I knew that my characters were going to a ball, and I needed to figure out, okay, who is hosting this ball? The dice told me that a duchess and a duke were hosting it, and so I generated a duke and duchess, and she is the duchess part of that. So she likes to party, she likes to host events. A lot of things happen in them. There's probably a lot of performers and stuff like that. Her parties are never boring. Additionally, I got that she is cold, and I didn't want her to be like standoffish because I think that contradicted like her curious and quirky nature. And so I interpreted the personality of being cold as her being more like emotionally closed off, like she's emotionally distant. It takes a lot for you to really get inside like her heart and the things that she has like locked up, you know? Like she probably doesn't share too much about her feelings and thoughts. She kind of interacts with people on, this is gonna sound bad, but like on a shallow level. It takes a lot for her to open up, basically. I know you guys are gonna eat this up. I generated some stuff about her background also. So for her background, I got lost. I interpreted that as she lost something, and I asked if she was a widow, and I got a yes. And I asked if she lost a husband or a wife, and I got a wife. So she is bisexual, which is great because right now as I'm filming this, it's during Pride Month and I'm bi. And I just love that she's bisexual, and I actually kind of like forgot at one point. So Esonora had fallen in love with someone who was not accepted into high society. I don't know the details of that yet, and we're gonna figure them out later. So she eloped with another woman, and she fell in love with her, and they were together. They got married. And this also helped me figure out where Mistwind stands in terms of same-sex marriage. And I asked the dice, and Mistwind is open to same-sex marriage. Probably the king, King Kellis, who is androgynous, probably legalized this because he represents something that is not entirely conforming to society with how androgynous he is. And so he probably legalized that. But inheritance is really important in this society where there's titles, there's a lot of wealth, and there's like primogeniture and stuff. So I think same-sex marriage is allowed as long as the union of these two people follow strict inheritance laws. And if they want to adopt, they still have to adhere to those strict inheritance laws. Esonora, she is actually the daughter of a Marquis? I don't know how to say it. There's so many different ways to say it, but I'm gonna say Marquez.
Marquis.
Editing Lauren here. It's Marquez, but I keep saying Marquez. I apologize beforehand that you have to listen to this. So she's a Marquez's daughter, and she's a lady because of that. So her name before she got married was Lady Esonora, but she eloped, and I don't know what her relationship is with her family. There's a possibility that she got disowned when she eloped because she eloped with someone who was not looked at with a positive light. And so she got married. Her wife ends up dying. I don't know how, so we're also gonna figure that out later. Essentially, Esonora returned to society after her wife died, and then eventually she met and fell in love with the Duke of Alizarin. They got married, and now she is the Duchess of Alizarin. And these two have lots of prestige. Their prestige is like almost comparable to Charles, and a lot of that is attributed to the fact that Esonora is a partier. She likes to host a bunch of events, and people love going to her events. They love everything that she organizes and stuff. So that's essentially everything that I currently know about her, and that's the stuff that's like set in stone. And all of that, like about her wife, about her husband, her two marriages, and about her family. We're gonna figure out the nitty-gritty details of that, and I hope things get spicy. I hope things get heartbreaking, because that's just like the stuff that I love when it comes to D&D. And it's gonna be exciting to see how she fits into this existing world. So around this time, I should be finishing up her face. If you saw me switching back and forth between this other version of her, that is the first draft I did when coloring and rendering, and I just ended up not liking it. I didn't like the way she looks, and I also didn't like the style that I did it in, and so I redid it, which is what you're seeing in this video. I hope she looks plump enough. You know, there's some fat in her face. I tried to do a double chin, but I'm very inexperienced with it, so I feel like it looks a little bit weird, the double chin, because it's kind of like, I don't know, like it's like something with the jaw, like it's not blending in with her face the way I want it to look. But I tried as best as I can, and hopefully in the future when I have more experience I can draw it better. I also added some like smile lines and a few like age indicators here and there because I didn't roll on this. I just think that she's an older woman because she has a lot of experience under her belt. She's gone through some stuff in her life, and since she's a human, she doesn't, you know, age slowly like an elf. Like, not too old, not too young, but still looking kind of youthful with a few indications of age, you know, like she's not a 20-year-old, okay? But I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and I'm glad about all the adjustments I made near the end of it. I'm including an image of the actual drawing so that you guys can see. The skin tone is dark. The camera just lightens her up. Hope you guys like how she looks so far, but let's move on. So I know that when I was blabbing about what I already know about her, it was kind of a lot. And usually these design with dice videos, they're a little bit more digestible because, you know, me and you as the listener, we find out all these things together as I roll the dice. But I kind of just like word vomited a bunch of her existing traits and information. But don't worry, we're going to slow it down. I'm going to repeat some of that stuff so that you can familiarize yourself with the stuff that I'm already familiar with as I'm finding out the details about them. And we're gonna start with her family background because that's the easiest. It's her foundation, basically. So what I mentioned before is that she has a wealthy background. She is a lady. Her official title before she got married, of course, is Lady Esonora. And that's because she's a Marquess's daughter. Marquess's daughters have the title of lady. When they get married, they can choose to still go by lady, depending on whether or not their marriage gives them a higher title. For Esonora's sake, she becomes a duchess later on, so of course she's gonna go by duchess, but currently, where we are in her background, she is Lady Esonora. So, her family. I want to find out if she has any siblings. 3. She does have siblings. Ooh, I did not bring like a d6 with me. So how should I do this? Should I roll like a d10 to find out like 1 through 10 how many siblings she has, or should I just like ask a number? Let's ask a number. Does she have more than one sibling? 19. Okay, that does it. She doesn't have more than one sibling. She just has one sibling. Is this sibling a brother? 14. No. So she has a sister. Is this sister younger? 7. Yes. Okay, so Esonora has a younger sister. Do they have a good relationship? 8. Yes, they do. Ooh, okay, that makes things interesting because of what we already know about her background, where she later runs away. Before we get to her falling in love and running away, let's find out about her parents. Does she have a mother and a father? You guys will see where I'm going with this, okay? No, she doesn't. All right, does she have 2 mothers? Oh wait, that doesn't make sense because one of her parents has to be a Marquess. So I'll change that and I'll ask, does she have 2 fathers? What the heck? A nat 20, which means very no. So that doesn't really make sense. But that's very no, so maybe I'll just take that as being like, yeah, she does have 2 mothers instead. And perhaps she's adopted? Is she adopted? No, she's not. So that makes me think, instead of being a Marquez's daughter, she's a Marchioness's daughter. So that still gives her the title of lady. Obviously, you know, the gays weren't gaying, or the lesbians weren't lesbianing in the past, like legally. Okay, they absolutely were, but it was not legal in the past. So we're straying from history. All right, this is fantasy. This is my little world. I'm gonna do whatever I want with it. And it's currently Pride Month. So she has two mothers. One of them is a Marchioness, or I guess they both are Marchionesses, but one of them has the title originally. And I think in Mistwind, there are kind of like some titles that are passed down to women, because traditionally and historically, the titles get passed down to the men, right? And it only gets passed down to their sons. But perhaps this one only gets passed down to the women in the family. And what I'm thinking, she's not adopted, so maybe her biological mom is a widow. Is her biological mom a widow? Yes, she is. So she is the result of the first marriage of her mother. And now her mother has a second marriage with another woman. I want to ask now, is her mom's title of being a Marchioness the product of being married to a Marquez, or was she bestowed this title by the king, or did she perhaps inherit it from her own mother? Like, is this a matriarchal title? So let's ask, is it a matriarchal title? I kind of want it to be yes. Oh God, no. Okay, so it's a nat 20. Very no, exceptional no, which means it's probably the product of getting married to a Marquez. So the detail about Esonora being a Marquez's daughter is still intact. So she is the biological daughter of a Marquez, which is why she's a lady, but her dad died. Her biological dad died, and then her mother got married again. And then that marriage now has a younger sister. Is her younger sister her biological sister? Or I guess, let me rephrase that. Is her younger sister from her mom's first marriage? No. Is her younger sister adopted? 3, yes. Was her younger sister adopted after her mother's second marriage? No, which means her younger sister was adopted by her stepmother prior to the second marriage. Does that make sense? So let's try to unpack this. This is so interesting already, so interesting. Esonora's parents, Marchioness and Marquez, her dad dies. She's an only child with her mom. Her mom gets married to another woman who has an adopted daughter who is younger than Esonora. Now Esonora has a younger step sibling and they have a good relationship. Now, here's what could make this all come crumbling apart. Does she have a good relationship with her parents? 8. Okay, she does. She does. That's a good thing. She has a good relationship with her parents. Although she is a daughter of a Marquez, I will say that, you know what, let's ask. Because I was about to say that her father's title, because her father is the original title holder, according to the dice. I was about to just assume that her father's like Marquez title was male inherited. Let's ask the dice. And I'll say, if I get a no, then that means it's just like unisex, like gender neutral. It just passes to whoever is the oldest. Gotta know. So it's just like, it just passes to whoever is the oldest. And Esonora is the oldest. So does that mean she would be a Marchioness? Because her dad died. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is complicating things. Wait, oh my God. So she's the only child of her mother's first marriage. So she would inherit because her mother's a widow. So she is a Marchioness. The Marchioness of what? God, am I really gonna have to come up with another name? Okay, to possibly make this easier for myself, is the Marchioness title just tied to the last name? Like, is she the Marchioness of Asurlen? And I'm still a little iffy on that name. Should I say Asurlen? Does that sound better? Or does Asurlen sound a little bit more fantasy-like? Let me know what you guys think. So let's ask, is it the Marchioness of Asurlen or Asurlen? No, it is not. Oh, okay. I have to find out what she's the Marchioness of. Let me get my name generator or my name table. That is cocked, so I will re-roll this one. 1. Just an A, a single A. Let's try 2 rolls and see where that gets us. 64, which is on. A and on. Marchioness of Etoña. Kind of reminds me of her name because Etoña. Esonora. Etoña. I'm going to roll a 3rd syllable. 26. No, 29. Etoña. What if the N on the ON was an Enye? So it's Etoña. Ooh, the Marchioness of Etoña. I kind of like that. The Marchioness of Etoña. So her father was the Marquis of Etoña, and her mother, as the widow now, is formerly called the Dowager Marchioness of Etoña. That also makes me wonder now, is her stepmother like some type of nobility? No, she is not. Is her stepmother like part of high society? No. Is the stepmother just like full on like commoner? 13, no. So I asked that because I was thinking like, if she isn't a full-on commoner, then she could possibly be some type of like merchant class. She could still have like money. So I guess I'll ask that. Does she still have money? I guess she had enough money to adopt a kid to begin with, so 7. Yes, so she does have money. So I think it's pretty likely that stepmom is like comes from like a merchant family. And I think this is like a lot of details. Sometimes I have ideas and I will just go with the ideas instead of rolling with it. So let's say she comes from a richer merchant family. Let's say that money allowed her to adopt this younger sister by herself as like a single mother, because I don't know, I don't want like both of them to have a child from like a prior marriage. So I will just say for now, since I don't know how important the stepmom is going to be, that the stepmom was a single woman who adopted a daughter and then later on got married to the Dowager Marchioness of Etoña, which is a pretty interesting pair. This Marchioness, I mean, she's probably like a big deal because her family is aristocratic. She was married to an aristocrat, and when her husband died, her daughter now is an aristocrat, but then she gets married to a merchant. And that makes me wonder, was it for monetary reasons? I hope not. Okay, no. Okay, so it wasn't for monetary reasons, which makes me assume that this was some type of love match, you know, like they liked each other. So this sounds like kind of like a nice, happy family of women, which is why it's very interesting to think about where this leads to, because Esonora eventually runs away and the details changed. I got surprised by the dice too, because I was just thinking, okay, she's Lady Esonora, but in reality, she's not just the daughter of a marquis. She inherited that title. She is herself a marchioness. And now she has that title attached to her. And if she has any children, then they are her heir. Oh my god. So that's her family. Let's move on to the next stage of her life where she falls in love. So from what I already know, she falls in love with another woman, just like her mother. And let's just say, doesn't really have a happy ending. Before I get ahead of myself, let's find out, how did they meet? We know that she meets a woman, and we know that they fall in love and eventually elope. We also know that this woman was a commoner. So how does this extremely wealthy, extremely elite Marchioness of Etoña come to fall in love with a commoner? Was she a performer of some kind? Because what we also know about Esonora is that she loves to party. She loves like kind of outlandish things, and she likes to collect things. So it's pretty possible that she was watching a play or something and she got to know one of the performers. Yes or no? 5, yes. She was a performer. This common girl was a performer in what? Was it a play? No. Was she a singer? No. What other types of performers are there? Was she part of like a circus? No. Come on, dice, give me something. A street performer? No. Whenever this happens, I wish that I could just like already see what you guys are commenting. Like I wish I could peek into the future because I'm sure that a bunch of you have so many ideas on what like kind of performer she can be based on the stuff I already rolled on. But like my mind is blanking. Like I'm even Googling right now and I can't think of anything. Okay. What about like the orchestra? Like a musician? Please give me a yes. Yes. Okay, 7. Yes. So she's a musician. She's not playing in the street. Is she part of a big like orchestra? No. Is she kind of like an up and coming person that just kind of ends up playing at events? 9. Yes. So she plays at events. That makes me think that perhaps this woman, this commoner, got hired to play music for one of the balls or like the soirees or whatever that Esonora was attending. And when she saw her, they kind of just had like a connection with each other. Perhaps there were a lot of stolen glances. Maybe they had to test the waters out a little bit. Like, hey, are you into women? Is this glance like just like an admiration one? Or are you into me in that way? And eventually they got to know each other. I feel like the way Esonora would have approached her is like, hey, like, so you like music, huh? Like that. And like she started to kind of like flirt with her through the music because I think Esonora is probably just a general like admirer of the art. So that kind of conversation also comes from, you know, like a genuine thing of interest to her. It wasn't literally just something to talk about while flirting. Like it was actually something that she wanted to know about. Perhaps they started to meet each other outside of these events. I don't know if I should come up with a name for her yet. Maybe I should, because I feel like I'm going to talk about her a lot. 48. Lee. Ooh, Lee. That's kind of like already a pretty good name, I feel like, but I'm gonna roll again and see what I get. 56. That's an N. 88. Lena or Lee. 27. S. What about first name Lee, last name Esna? Esna. Like the A, it's an A, so it's E-S-N-A, but the A is pronounced like instead of a. So it's Esna. Lee Esna. So this woman, her name is Lee. She's a performer. She's a musician. I feel like she would constantly get hired by these rich people to play at their events. Perhaps that's what she's like kind of good at. Maybe she's like very good at playing like ballroom music, right? I wonder if it's the piano that she plays. 14, it is not. What about, I don't know, the cello? 3, it is. It is the cello that she plays. So this cello player named Lee starts to have this relationship with Esonora, and I want to know, was this generally like secretive or were they pretty open with it? Was it secretive? No. Okay. So Esonora, she was like, I don't care. I'm a Marchioness. If people see what I'm doing, it's none of their business. But if they see it, then who cares? I'm a Marchioness. When she was going about this, was she acting very confidently and with no discretion like that because she was thinking, I already have a lot in life and they can't really take that away from me? Yes. So she was kind of almost acting carelessly because she already has so much going on for her. And I think she's already kind of thinking, you know, it doesn't really matter who I marry. I already have my title. And if I marry another woman, my mother has done it. Why would that be a problem? But I think the fact that she had to elope makes me assume that this courtship, this relationship was not accepted by high society. And I think a lot of that is attributed not to the fact that they are two women in love, but because Lee is a performer. There's historically a lot of stigma amongst performers, like opera singers, singers, and stuff. Their whole thing was that even though they worked and they did get paid by this job, they still needed a lot more money. And the way that they got this was becoming mistresses to rich men. And I think there's probably still that kind of stigma in this society because the societies are very similar, you know? I don't think these musicians playing at parties are getting paid that much, okay? So I was originally gonna roll on if Lee was accepted by high society or not, but I think I'm just gonna say that she isn't because there's just so many factors that would say that she isn't. Plus, we already know that Esonora eloped. She had to have a reason to elope instead of getting formally married. How does her mother feel about this, or I guess both of her mothers? Do they have a good opinion about this relationship? No. Does Esonora think that that's hypocritical of them? Okay, no, she doesn't. Perhaps she doesn't hold any like resent on that. Maybe it isn't because of the fact that Lee is a commoner that they disapprove of it. Maybe they just like don't really like Lee. Do they just not like Lee as a person? No. Okay. Is it because of the class situation? No. Okay, like why don't they like her then? Oh, is it a money situation? Because Lee is not rich. 2. It is because she's poor. And I guess with her mother, with Esonora's mom, she got married to someone who was not part of high society, but still she was rich because she came from a merchant family. Stepmom came from a rich family, so money wasn't a problem. But they're disapproving of Esonora's relationship with Lee because Lee is poor. But I think Esonora doesn't think that's hypocritical of them because like they didn't have this money problem. So I think she understands where they're coming from. But I feel like Esonora's thought process, just like before, is I have so much going on for me already. I have money, I have a title, I have reputation. So why does it matter who I marry? She's not necessarily going to bring me down. And I think Esonora's thinking, I have more money to provide for the both of us if we get married. And so I think that's really her argument whenever she does argue with her parents about this whole relationship. And I think ultimately in the end, she decided, I'm not going to wait for your approval or anyone else's approval. I'm going to elope with her. So she elopes with Lee. The way I see it, they elope and kind of live this like free lifestyle where, you know, they party, they do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about anyone else telling them what to do. And they don't have to worry about society having like these hawk eyes on them, judging every single little action that they do. And I think they live like that for a while, just together, with Esonora using her money to provide for the both of them, to provide for this lifestyle that they both wanted. And you know what? I'm going to ask, how long were they married? And I'm going to use this D10 and we'll see what we get. 4 years they were married. And unfortunately, I already know that Lee passes away because Esonora becomes a widow. That's so sad. I'm kind of PMSing right now, so like a lot of things have been making me cry and tear up. So I have to find out, how did Lee die? And I'm gonna roll on this cryptic message table just to see what I get. Perhaps it'll give me some sort of idea. 79. Pursue. Ew. For some reason, the first thing that came up in my mind was a stalker. Oh God. I hate that, but with interpretations, I usually go with the first thing that comes to my mind, and that's really gross and really creepy. It's like sent chills down my back. Like I've got like really creeped out right now. Another thing that came to mind was because Lee is a musician, she probably knew other musicians, and because she's poor, I think possibly in her life she had to, you know, make difficult choices, and maybe she was like in debt or something, or perhaps she had this like deal going on with some other person, and that other person might have gotten resentful or angry at her after finding out that she became the wife of a Marchioness. And maybe that person is like, I want some of what you're having. We used to be friends, so like, why don't you give me something? And so they start to pursue Lee during these 4 years. I feel like the friend got like mad at them or something, or way too like violent one time and ended up like, you know, deleting Lee. So let's ask the dice. Is that what happened? 9. Yes. Lee was murdered. Was it murder or was it accidental? Was it murder? 13. No, it wasn't murder. So it was accidental. The friend did not mean to do it. Oh my god, that's how traumatic for Esonora to lose your wife like that. She basically had this like blissful, amazing life being married, and it was like very freeing too. It was like a freeing type of elopement where she was finally in a relationship and she was being able to do whatever she wanted. They had security, they had financial security, and they were happy for 4 years until this person from Lee's past like came back to haunt her and ended up being the end of her life. And the way I see it, Esonora she like broke after that. I think she like stopped taking care of herself, and she was definitely depressed and mourning for a while. But what I do know is she eventually does return to like the previous life that she had. You know, she returned to high society, kind of, I guess, started to reconnect with her family again. Or, I mean, we don't even know if she reconnected with her family. I'm assuming they parted badly, but let's ask the dice. Did she part badly with her family or with her parents? Because she has a good relationship with her sister. No, they had their disagreements. I don't think there was like bad blood between her and her parents. She did still elope, which means she got married without anyone's approval or anything like that, because she believed she didn't need their approval. But at the same time, her elopement or this act of running away didn't mean that she was like suddenly, excommunicated from her family. It made them definitely distant and estranged. Did they stay connected while she was married during those 4 years? No, they didn't. So they probably weren't writing letters to her. So they weren't really communicating. So when Esonora does go back to the capital, which is where she lived before, Queenshaven, she probably would reconnect with her family because they don't have a bad relationship. But my question now is, how long did it take her to go back to high society? How many months or years did it take her to realize that she wanted to go back to her life of comfort? I'm just gonna roll the d10 again. 3 years. 3 years she was mourning. So when I was drawing her and I was thinking about her hair, I had this idea where she was obviously devastated by the death of her wife. She was, just absolutely torn apart by it. Like, she was depressed, she was mourning, she was grieving. When I was researching Afro textured hair to get ideas for her hairstyles, I started to find out about how having locks, there's a lot of like spirituality within it, right? Depending on a person's belief. And I was thinking, I know that Esonora is a widow. I wonder if she can use locks, or she did use locks as a way to grieve and mourn. And I'm not gonna roll on this because I think this is a great idea and I'm absolutely going to make it a thing. Esonora loves to wear her hair in twists. That's her preferred way of wearing her hair. Having this traumatic moment in her life, I don't know if she already had kind of shortish hair when they were married, or if she cut her hair after her wife died. I guess I'll ask that. Did she cut her hair when Lee died? She did. So she like chopped her hair off, kind of like Mulan style or Mulan length. It was still in twists when she did that. Like I said before, she stopped taking care of herself. She was neglecting herself. So that means she was definitely neglecting her hair care. And I think those twists eventually start to turn into some type of freeform locks. I mean, 3 years of neglect, like, how does that look like, right? And she's just rocking these like locks, and she starts to see them as the physical manifestation and physical form of her grief. And that's how she wears them. After 3 years, according to the dice, she goes back to the capital and she reunites with her family. At that point, she starts to properly maintain her locks because now she's fully accepted after 3 years that, okay, these locks are connected to this event in my life. They are connected to Lee, almost like a physical connection to Lee that she still has. And so she starts to maintain them and they kind of start to be semi freeform locks. I don't know if I'm totally understanding this correct because I tried to watch some videos on it. Obviously, if she's reconnected with her family, she can like maintain them properly now and have actually like servants or go to the salon or whatever to have her locks maintained. I think they would still start to grow and be more structured. Eventually, we also know that she gets married again. Kind of like her mother, she gets married again. But I'm gonna roll another d10 to find out how long it takes her to get married again. Because we do know that Esonora is on the older side. She's not 20s, she's not 30s. I think she's more in like her 40s or 50s because she is a human. And so I will roll another d10 to see how long after those 3 years it takes her to find another love. 5 years. Okay, so here's a timeline. Lee dies. 3 years pass of just utter depression. She goes back to the capital city and reunites with her family. She starts living with her family again as a widow. 5 years pass of her maintaining these locks, basically being reintroduced into society. And she meets the Duke of Alizarin. Now, this guy, I already know some stuff about him, but he's gonna have his own video. He's gonna be the next Design with Dice character. What you guys get to know is that he's the Duke of Alizarin and he is an elf. His whole thing is kind of funny, is that he's like very boring and very bland. Like the way he looks is very simple and basic. I don't think that says anything about his personality. You know, you can look very basic as a person, but your personality could be this like whole great thing. But I think when I was actually rolling for his personality, I also got like kind of like dull. So I guess he does look basic and he does kind of have a dull personality, but Esonora loves him nonetheless. So 5 years pass. She's rocking these locks. She's kind of starting to kind of enjoy life again, despite, you know, wearing this grief around with her everywhere. Because, you know, grief never leaves you, right? It stays with you, but it becomes easier to carry. And I think that's what these locks are doing for Esonora. I think the fact that she's maintaining them and taking care of them, it kind of helps her get through it a little bit more. So let's see, how did this Duke and this Marchioness meet and fall in love? Did they meet through her parents? No. Okay. Did they meet because he asked her to dance at a ball? Yes. Okay. Oh yeah, by the way, his name is Erenfir. He's an elf, so it's a very elven name, Erenfir. I don't know how he looks yet. I'm gonna be figuring that out in his video, but he looks kind of basic. He kind of has a dull personality, so I think he probably has a reputation in high society for being kind of like a boring person. But apparently one night he had the balls to ask the Marchioness, the infamous Marchioness Etoña, to dance with him. And she, well, let's see. Did she accept? 9. Okay, she did. I thought it would have been funny if like she rejected him. And then like their romance kind of grew in some other way. But so she said yes, she agreed to dance with him. Was this dance really the thing that did it for them? Like, was this the thing that started to make the sparks fly? No. Okay. Was it what created a friendship between them? So we know, I guess, like nothing romantic happened here, but possibly a friendship. 5. Okay, so he danced with her, they danced together, and they probably got talking. She kind of had a good impression of him and he had a good impression of her. And so I think they probably became acquaintances after that. Like they became good acquaintances. But what we also know from Esonora, which I mentioned earlier, is she's kind of a closed book emotionally. I think that's very impactful in this moment because she's the Marchioness of Etoña. She has this like infamy about her where, oh, she ran away and then her wife died in an attack, and then she kind of disappeared for 3 years and then she's suddenly back. But she's kind of made a name for herself. But I think people gossip about her. They know all of these kind of like surface level things about her life, but they don't know her. You know, they don't know how she feels. They don't know her side of the story. Possibly people have tried to connect with her on a deep level, but I think she's a closed book. But I think the reason why her and Arenfir eventually fall in love is because for some reason, this guy, this boring looking, boring in the eyes of society elf dude, got her comfortable enough to open up. They managed to bond and they fall in love and eventually they get married. And I think once she becomes the Duchess of Alizarin, which is her current title because she married the Duke of Alizarin, I think that's when she finally cut her locks off because it was a new start for her. It's a new life and it's time to finally leave the energy of those 8 years of grief behind. Oh my god, I hope I don't cry while talking about this, but it sounds really beautiful, and I can already feel my voice like feeling the effects of talking so much. But they get married, and like maybe she was like bald at their wedding or wearing a wig after cutting it off, or did she cut the locks off after their wedding? Did she cut them off after the wedding? No. Okay, so she cut them off before the wedding. Was she bald during her wedding? No. Okay, so she was wearing a wig, probably like a twisted wig. Right before they got married, they kind of got together and she cut her locks off. And I would like to think that he helped her out with that because, you know, he has been helping her out with her existing grief. And I think it's only poetic for him to now physically help her out with cutting her locks off. And they kind of have this like mini ceremony before their wedding, like a day before their wedding or something, where she buries her locks. And it's kind of like her last goodbye to Lee, where she's kind of burying her again. And he's right there with her, by her side that entire time, emotionally and like mentally supporting her. And I envision their relationship to just be like super supportive. Like they are best friends. Other people might find him boring and basic, but she loves it about him. And I think she finds him super interesting. And other people might find her a little bit kooky, but he loves that about her. Oh my god, they're so cute. And it's such just like a different dynamic from what she had with Lee. Their love was extremely passionate and young, and they were free together. Lee was this musician. Esonora was a person who had so much love for the arts and music, and they probably bonded over that a lot. And I would envision that Esonora became Lee's like muse. And I feel like Lee wrote a lot of songs for Esonora and played her instrument for her a lot and like serenaded her like that. And they were just like a very romantic and passionate type of love. But then her relationship with Arenfir, the Duke of Alizarin, it's just this very like emotional and deep type of love because he knows what she's been through and he knows that Lee is always going to be a part of her. He knows that it's what made her who she is as a person, and it's what made her be the person that he also fell in love with. And so it's kind of like Lee was Esonora's young love and Arenfir is her like old love, kind of like he's the one that she's gonna grow old with, which is kind of sad. Oh god, I'm tearing up because like she's a human and he's an elf. and she's gonna age so much quicker than him, and she's probably gonna die before him, and like now he's gonna have to grieve her. Oh god, I'm so glad I have tissue like literally right next to me, because I'm just like crying now. I hope you guys are crying just as much as me, because this is like tearing me apart, especially in this like I'm on my period and it's just like destroying me. Ugh, I just love these two so much, and I'm like so much more excited now to do his video, because I think what I'm gonna do with him is he's going to be kind of a bit of a boring, like visually kind of character design, but I think the super interesting part is going to be his backstory. Like that's the part I'm looking forward to. What has happened with him? Because I also don't know how old he is. Esonora is like what, like 40, 50 or something, and he's an elf, so he could be like 70 or 80, you know, but still look young, right? But like what has he been through in his life? She's lived through 40 or 50 human years, and she's already been through kind of a lot, right? Okay, so now that I'm done crying, some more questions about Esonora and Arenfir's marriage. I want to know, was their courtship viewed positively? 6. It was. So apparently her previous like elopement, maybe because like 8 years had already passed, that kind of like scandal from before didn't really like taint their relationship. People had already moved on from it. Were they a couple that people were like actively rooting for? 5. Okay, so they had like fans amongst high society. I think like their wedding probably had a huge turnout, and I think that they are an incredibly powerful and popular couple, because not only is she the Marchioness of Etoña, he is also the Duke of Alizarin. So those are two pretty prestigious titles. Both of those titles are going to pass down to their eldest child. Now I'm thinking the Duke title is probably passed down to the firstborn son type of thing, but Esonora's title is passed down to the firstborn child. It doesn't matter if the child is male or female, they're gonna inherit it nonetheless. So there's a possibility here that like they have a daughter and the daughter will inherit Esonora's title, and then if they have a son, then that son will inherit Arenfir's title and become duke. Or there's a possibility also that Arenfir's title might also be like unisex, and their firstborn child just inherits both titles nonetheless. So let's ask, even though I feel like this should be in his video, but since we're talking about it now, let's do it. Is his title male inherited? I forgot to take away my other dice. 6. Okay, so it is male inherited. If their firstborn child is a son, that son will inherit both. But if they have a daughter for their first child, that daughter will only inherit Esonora's. And if they don't have any sons, then his duke title will probably go to like a brother or a cousin, whichever one is nearer to him on the line of succession. Speaking of children, we don't know how long they've been married. I'm gonna roll a d10. 8 years. They have been married for 8 years, which means at present time, where the story is in Mistwind, because they are NPCs in Mistwind, 16 years have passed since Lee's death. So if Esonora is like 50, then she was probably like in her 30s when she married Lee. So they've been married for 8 years. If there's a high chance that they have children already. So let's ask, do they have children? Yes, they do. More than one? No. Okay, they only have one child, and they will probably only have one child because she's like 50 years old. It's not a good idea for her to get pregnant again. $1 million question. Is this child a son? That was almost a 3, and then it turned out to be 16. No, so they have a daughter. Arenfir's title will not pass down to this daughter, but at least this daughter will become the Marchioness of Etoña when Esonora dies, which is hopefully like not soon, you know, in the story. Hopefully. You never know what the dice will do, though. Sometimes the dice just decides to kill an NPC for like no reason, so Okay, so like that was a lot and I even cried, and this video is becoming very long, but I still have more questions. We're not done yet. I asked stuff about her family, I asked stuff about her first marriage, and I asked stuff about her second marriage. But what about her current life? What about her position in this world of Mistwind? From my previous Design with Dice video, we know about the queen and we know about the king of Mistwind, Kellis and Ilnea. Esonora, as the wife of a duke and as a marchioness herself, is pretty high up there in the aristocracy. I want to know, is she friends with the queen? 17? No, she's not friends with the queen. Is she friends with the king? 10? Yes, barely friends with a king. So I'm probably thinking like maybe they're not like total friends. Maybe they're just very good acquaintances that like they kind of just call each other friend. But maybe they're not like really friends on a deep level, especially because she's a closed book. But that's interesting. I wonder why she's not friends with Ilnea. Because like Ilnea is very liked. Is it just like a social circle thing? Are they good acquaintances at least? 3. Okay. Yes, they are good acquaintances. So perhaps because of just maybe the way they are as people or just whatever circumstances, for some reason, Esonora and Ilnea aren't necessarily like good friends. Probably just have different friends. They probably just hang out with other people, but they have a good enough relationship where they are good acquaintances. And the king calls Esonora his friend. So she still has a good relationship with the king and queen. She also has an extremely good position in society, and I want to ask, is she well liked? Oh god, 12. No, she isn't well liked. So maybe people still haven't forgotten about the scandal. Or is it even about the scandal? Like, is that even the reason why people don't like her? Or is it just because of her personality? Is that the reason? Yes, it is. So people still haven't forgotten the fact that like she married someone poor. God, these people are annoying. So even though she has a bunch of prestige, she's a marchioness, she's a duchess, she has a good relationship with the king and queen, people still kind of talk about her behind her back. And I think what also adds to this is the fact that Esonora is eccentric. She's not a conformist in society. I mean, she already broke the rules by marrying someone poor. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you guys probably forgot already. She is also very interested in Eleanor, and Eleanor doesn't have a good reputation. Eleanor is this like chaotic ball, you know, and I feel like Esonora is drawn to her chaotic nature because she loves eccentric things. She loves things that are different. She loves these like crazy performances, right? She loves probably like new music. And so she's a bit of a quirky personality. And I feel like people just don't get that. It's the same reason why they say all these bad things about Frederick and Eleanor. They just don't get them. They don't appreciate the type of people that they are. And so I think although Esonora has made an amazing recovery, society as a whole is still extremely shallow in the way they view people, that they still view her from the lens of like, you're weird, you married this boring guy, and we really only rooted for your marriage because like you guys are super prestigious. We cheered you on, but at the same time, we still talk about you behind your back and like we kind of make fun of you. Like that, you know, like people are fake to her. To her face, they're probably very polite and they like try to kiss up to her because she's a marchioness and a duchess and she has a good connection to the king and queen. At the end of the day, that's all just fake. And it's just a mask to maintain a reputation and a good image in society. And that's just how like high society is. I feel like, you know, people care about so many of like artificial things, right? They care about image, they care about money, they care about reputation and prestige and titles, and they care about who you marry and stuff like that. And Esonora just kind of got, I guess, lucky that this time in her second marriage, she married someone who was acceptable. Barely, because he's a duke. But if he was the same guy that he is and he was a commoner, she would be getting absolutely torn apart by society once more. I hate these people. Last thing I will talk about, and possibly like the most important if you're a follower of Mistwind, is the Alizarin Ball. In Mistwind society, every year there's a social season in the capital city of Queenshaven where, you know, people mingle with each other, they flirt with each other, they start courtships, possibly get married, and they do all of this social mingling and social networking during this social season at events. And usually there is kind of like an opening ball or an opening dance where debutantes are presented. Usually, historically, the Queen holds this ball, like Queen Victoria would hold this, or Queen Charlotte would, right? But in Mistwind, Esonora holds the ball. I kind of stole this from Bridgerton with Lady Danbury, because even in the books, Lady Danbury hosts the very first ball of the London season, and it just kind of became a tradition for her. I want that same thing to happen to Esonora, which gives her an even higher stool to step on in society. So the way this started is Esonora, you know, she likes to defy the expectations of society. Her personality is she kind of thinks like a lot of these rules that society makes are stupid, right? Like, I mean, her first marriage, why can't I marry a poor person? Why can't I marry someone who's a commoner? She thinks a lot of those rules are stupid. And one of those rules is that unmarried young ladies and debutantes should be wearing white, because white is a symbol of purity and innocence, right? And I think she thinks that's stupid. Why should you be restricted to one color just because you're young and you're innocent or whatever? And why should bold colors like red be reserved for the older married people or like mistresses? Why does it have to be associated with things with bad connotations? And so Esonora thinks, well, I'm the Duchess of Alizarin. What if I held a ball, the very first ball of this season, where you have to wear red or else you can't come in? Everyone wears red, even the debutantes. The debutantes will come out to society for the first time wearing red instead of white, just because I decided. So she did. And now that I know a little bit more about her backstory, I kind of want to know if this kind of has something to do with Lee, like maybe how Lee was as a person. So I'll ask that. Hopefully it's a yes. Yes, it's a 6. It's a yes. So maybe red was Lee's favorite color. Maybe Lee loved wearing red. Maybe Lee also had a very strong opinion about this whole like wearing white thing if you're like a young woman, you know. This is also kind of Esonora's tribute to both her husband and her late wife. Her husband is the Duke of Alizarin, so she's honoring his name and title by hosting a ball that is based on the color of his title, but also she's honoring her late wife because this was her favorite color and she would have loved to attend this ball and play music at it. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry again. I'm not gonna cry again. I'm gonna try not to cry. I'm gonna get through to the end of this video without crying again. I think she went and did it. She did this ball. She invited everyone, and at first, people turned their noses up at it. They were like, what do you mean wearing red? That's so scandalous. Debutantes should debut into society in white. That's how it's been done for so long. And I think maybe the queen didn't really like it. Maybe this is why like they aren't necessarily friends, because like Ilnea probably was the one already hosting the first ball of the season where people would debut. But then Esonora decided to kind of inadvertently usurp being the host of the first season. And perhaps Ilnea was a little bit offended at first. But then her bestie, aka her husband, the king, Kellis, was like, no, I mean, it sounds fun. What if we go? Let's wear red. Let's go. And I feel like he kind of convinced Ilnea, like, oh, you already host like so many things. Let her have this one thing. It doesn't say anything about you as a queen. And so they went. And I think them going to the ball is what really like jump started this, because people's opinion went from, ew, you're breaking the rules. You're trying to change things up and we don't like that, that to being, oh, wearing red? Wow, that's so exciting. That's so like bold. Let's do it now because it's like a trendy thing that's happening. Over the 8 years that Erenfir and Esonora were married or are married, this became a tradition. The Alizarin ball is the first ball of the season that people go to, and you're expected to wear red or else you're not allowed in. And that event, the Alizarin ball, is exactly the event that Charles and Eleanor will be attending in, I believe, episode 4 of Mistwind. So look forward to that in the future. It's also the exact ball that like caused the birth of Erenfir and Esonora as a couple. So it's the whole reason why they even exist to begin with. And I just think the concept of the Alizarin ball is so cool because I would want to attend it because I don't look good in white, but I might look good in red. So yeah, I've been talking for way too long. My voice needs a break. I think that's all for Esonora. This might be the longest Design with Dice video yet. I will do Erenfir, the Duke of Alizarin, her husband, and we'll see what kind of crazy things happens in his backstory. Because you never know, he might have like 12 siblings or something like that. But yeah, I hope you guys like how she looks. I hope you guys liked her first marriage and her second marriage. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!